Hi, everybody. This is Adam Moore for Reformed and Reloaded. With me today, I have Albert Almeida. Now, Albert, you're a fellow New Jerseyan, and you live, I think, closer up to North Jersey, which is kind of like a different state, um, in a sense. But we both share the dubious distinction of living in a state with uh, some of the most draconian firearms laws in the country. We live in a situation where we're not able to conceal carry without a special permit. And the reason why I had Albert on today is because you actually have a court case kind of pending right now where you are trying to get through a justifiable need permit to be able to conceal carry. And we're hoping that it's going to be some kind of test case or possibly some kind of landmark case where the rest of us schlubs can possibly be able to conceal carry. So welcome to the program.
Adam, thank you for having me. And yes, unfortunately, we do live in this state that doesn't know how to respect our Second Amendment rights. In fact, they don't even have the Second Amendment in the New Jersey Constitution. So I feel your pain.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years, especially, we have multiple cases where somebody from inside the state has a handgun, a legally obtained handgun. Thinking about Brian Aiken from South Jersey, Mount Laurel, Shanine Allen, who was New Jersey single mom going to Atlantic City, or a Philadelphia single mom going to Atlantic City, and I think or another case that's kind of going on right now, getting a lot of press, is Josie Lamont. Uh, I'm sorry, Stefan Josie Davis, who we've had on the program as well. And so the issue of putting our cases before the New Jersey judiciary is extremely important, because if any of us, just non-law enforcement people, want to carry, we really have no recourse. The way the law works in New Jersey is you have to go before a judge and provide what's called justifiable need to be allowed. And it works like this. It's like someone has made a direct threat on your life. Sometimes they allow people who work in the firearms industry or in the security industry. And even then, I know somebody who has one who's only allowed to carry it while at work or making deliveries. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about some of the details of your case and kind of like what's going on with that.
Yeah, isn't that sad that these good citizens, both that live in New Jersey and out of state, are getting cut up in these draconian gun laws, and they're forced to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to defend themselves, all because they have a sidearm. And some of them have it for defense, some of them have it for just sporting collection, and they're getting jammed up in the system. It's unfortunate. Now, as far as my case goes, the justifiable need, we all know what the justifiable need clause in the state of New Jersey says. And what happened with me was going on 2 years now. First off, let me give you a little bit of background and history of who I am, what I do, and where I come from, so your listeners have a better understanding. I live in New Jersey, North Jersey, in Sussex County. Majority of my time is spent in the Essex, Hudson County areas. I grew up in the city of Newark. I worked in the city of Newark for well over 25 years. Before I became a property manager, before I started my own small business, I was EMT in the city of Newark for close to 20 years. And of those 20 years, I also served as a SWAT medical technician for the Newark Police Department. I've pretty much seen everything out there, from the most violent acts against innocent people, including women and children. I've seen many people shot, that were perpetrated by armed thugs, armed robbers, carjacked, innocent women unable to defend themselves. I've seen kids shot because they got caught in the crossfire of maybe two rival gangs shooting at each other. I can honestly say I believe I've seen it all. I left that line of work after 20 years. I started my own business, and it's involving real estate, property management, and construction. 2 years ago, I came across a tenant that was refusing to pay rent, and I had to advise them that, hey, listen, this is the procedure. If you don't pay the rent, then I'm going to have to file for court eviction. I gave them the whole scenario, what was about to happen. Well, he didn't take that lightly. I advised him, hey, listen, you have a girlfriend that lives in the apartment with you, that she has children. I don't want to see her getting kicked out. I don't want the children being kicked out. So just do the right thing. He didn't take that lightly, that I had to file for eviction, and so he threatened my life. And I advised them that, hey, listen, those are terroristic threats. I take them serious. I'm going to file a police report. And I did that same day. And his response was, go ahead, call the cops. If they show up, I'll shoot them also. Now, the threats against my life were very specific. There was actually about 15 of them. Specific as he said how he was going to do it. He said that I am no longer safe as long as I live in the state of New Jersey. That he admitted that he is a Bloods gang member. He made sure that I was aware of that. I looked up his name. He did 7 years in prison for aggravated assault. So this guy was the real deal. He has a long history of violence. He admitted to being a Bloods gang member. And his threats went from, if he doesn't get me, his street boys will get me. His street crew will get me. That they will put a bullet in my head and they will rob me of the rent money. That he knows where I'm at. He knows how to find me. That he sees me out there. And no matter how long it takes, as long as I live in the state of New Jersey, I am no longer safe. And he repeated that several times. I took that threat very serious because, my history, and I know that, listen, these guys will put a bullet in your head and not think twice about it. They will not shed a tear. They just do not care. And I took that threat serious. I filed a police report. The police department obviously didn't do much. They tried to go over there. They couldn't find them. The detective calls me up and says, hey, listen, we can't find this guy. Why don't you go over to his house, pretend you have a maintenance call. If he's there, call 911, and we'll send over a police car. And I was like, wait a minute. The guy that just threatened to put a bullet in my head, the guy that threatened to put a bullet in your head if you showed up, you want me to go over, pretend there's a maintenance call, and if he's home to call 911 and sit there and wait? I was like, no, that's so I went ahead and I filed I was like, listen, I'm terrified. I am, this time here, I'm terrified. I'm going to apply for a concealed carry. And I did. I went to my hometown, which is up in Sussex County. I applied for it. I went through the process. I did my qualifications. I provided my various amounts of training certificates from various institutions, not just the NRA, as far as gun training, gun qualifications, gun handling, gun safety. And I went through the process, and it took a little over a year. It took about 3 months to get denied by the local police department, and that denial was due to lack of justifiable need. The chief of police of my town called me up, and pretty much was like a 30-second telephone conversation. It was more of a statement that he made to me than anything else in an interview. And he said, listen, a lot of people make terroristic threats and don't act on it. I was like, Chief, listen, maybe that's the case up here in Sussex County, but when a gang member, a Bloods gang member with a violent history threatens your life, majority of the times they act on it. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but eventually they will act on it. And I'm fearful, and I believe this guy that one day he will act on it. And he was like, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. And he denied it. So, okay, I appealed it through the Superior Court. And that took about a year to get a court hearing. And the state argued that I had options. And my options were that I could shut down my business and find work elsewhere, that I could hire a security guard if I feel threatened, that a security guard could follow me around or come and work with me, or I could move. And those were my options. And the judge agreed. The judge agreed with the state. The judge agreed with the Sussex County prosecutor and denied my permit. And it's on record. It's on the transcripts with them discussing those three options.
Yeah, that when you're talking about tyranny, and when you're talking about just an absolute, like that's not even within the bounds of general reasonable logic.
No, it's sad. It's that they have to instead of approving an individual that is obviously well trained, has the certificates to prove it. The lieutenant that did the background check on me, the lieutenant that processed my application said, "Hey, Al, you have a great case. If it was up to me, I would approve you, but expect to be denied by the chief of police." And he went on to say, he goes, the 10 years that he's been with the police department, he says that I am the second person that has applied for a carry application. And he was like, I don't understand why more people don't come forward and apply for it. Well, it's obvious why more people don't come forward. It's one, because they're afraid of being denied, and they have no faith in the system. Because they're told right from the beginning that, hey, listen, you're wasting your time. Unless you're politically connected and you're going to get approved because the judge is your golf buddy or it's a family member, or you've been shot and you survived, then maybe you'll get approved. And that was one of my questions when I was denied and I was told that I could just move, or I can shut down my business, or hire security. And they said that the threat was not sufficient enough. I was like, wait a minute. And I asked the prosecutor, when does it become sufficient? Before or after this individual puts a bullet in my head? And of course, they couldn't answer my question. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the very fact that their solution is for you to move out of the state or to shut down your business, and they're willing, but they're also willing to say you can hire a security guard. But is the security guard that you're going to be able to hire, is he going to be able to carry a weapon, or is he just going to be shooting marshmallows or something at this guy? I don't understand what they expect this person to do, and beyond just your extenuating circumstances, which sound, horribly, just scary and terrifying. I can't imagine having to live like that. But you have just people who want to live their lives in safety and to go about their business and not worry about somebody carjacking them or trying to rob them at gunpoint. So the fact that you have the special need should definitely put you in the qualifications to be able to carry. But even so, we're of the firm belief here that anybody who doesn't have a criminal background and who's of sound mind should be allowed to possess and maintain a firearm on their person at all times. And I think that's just common sense.
I would even go one step further. Being a former educator, being a former instructor for the state police and various other disciplines, I would even go one step further and say, listen, require the citizens to have an 8-hour safety course on gun handling, gun safety. Have them do a qualifications. I would even go that step. I would even advocate for that and endorse such a. I know a lot of people might disagree because the Second Amendment. Listen, I understand that and I respect that, but in today's day and age, I don't think you and I just want anyone to go out there to a gun store, buy a gun because they can legally, because they're not a criminal. Go ahead and put it on their hip and just start walking around. A lot of people say you just don't buy a car and go out there and start driving without learning how to drive. And I understand that a car and driving is a privilege, not a right. I understand that. But you also should not just go ahead and buy a gun and put it on your hip and just walk around with it. You should have some type of training. At least that's my personal belief. Even if it's a basic 4-hour or 8-hour training course on safe handling, when to shoot, when not to shoot, how not to shoot yourself while cleaning the gun or loading it. How many police officers do we hear of? They've been on the job for many years and still wind up shooting themselves in the leg or their finger or whatever because they didn't handle their weapon appropriately while they were cleaning it or while they were holstering it. I can tell you 3 names from police officers that I personally know that shot themselves doing such acts by cleaning the gun or holstering it. And these are individuals that have been on the job 10, 15, 20 years. So I would even go one step further and say, hey, listen, allow the citizens in the state of New Jersey to obtain a carry permit, but use the Texas system that have them provide some type of training certificate that they're knowledgeable in the safety and the use of a sidearm.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of different opinions about should there be background checks or should there be safety courses required or kind of the nuances with that.
But background checks, we already have that in New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
You hear a lot of arguments. A lot of people argue about the background check. What are you arguing about? You already have to go through a background check. You have to go through several background checks in the state of New Jersey. So it's no big deal. If they have to do a NICS check on you, let them do a NICS check. It's something that we have. It's something that you hear that coming from other states, and a lot of the Moms Demand Action groups. They sit here and holler that New Jersey should have background checks. Well, we do have background checks. They're just not aware of it. Or they just don't know the procedure.
Yeah, and the background checks are extensive. Like the police will go to your neighbors and they'll require people who have
exactly that.
And they're especially invasive, actually.
Yes, that I disagree with. That I disagree with the reference check, with the personal interview, the phone calls. That's pretty intrusive, and that I disagree with.
Now, so if you're a person who's more libertarian minded or not, we can debate those type of things, but I think we're definitely both in agreement that there needs to be the ability for the normal average citizen who does what they're supposed to do to be able to carry, and the situation that you're bringing up right now really just highlights the need for extensive overhaul to the legislation in New Jersey. And we've seen this type of thing happen in places like Washington, D.C., in California, and Chicago, and so we've been seeing a lot of heavy restrictions, and it does nothing to stem the tide of violence. All it does is create unarmed citizens who are targets.
A lot of those restrictions you're seeing is in this northeast area. Believe it or not, a lot of the gun rights laws out there are prevalent. The majority of states, yes, the majority of them are red states, and a lot of them are in the South and Southwest. But a lot of the new gun protection laws and gun legislation, they're all pro Second Amendment. Let's look at what happened to Illinois. Who would have ever thought that Illinois would fall into gun rights? Let's look at what's going on in San Diego, California. They're winning. They haven't won completely yet, but they're winning. Chicago, D.C. Who would have ever thought Washington, D.C. would have fallen to gun rights? So far, they're winning. The mayor last week just announced that he's dropping the appeal with the Palmer case. They're going ahead with maybe the justifiable need, but they they already put them on notice that they're going to sue them for for Washington D.C.'s May issue policy. But Washington D.C. is winning, and majority of the other states are winning. We don't hear a lot of that in our area, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. And I think a lot of that has to deal with the media. But if you go onto the SAF or the NRA websites and you look at what's going on across the country, we are winning. Second Amendment rights are winning. And we can do it here in New Jersey. If we all stand together, we all stand united, and we fight and we demand. Now, New Jersey legislators are, in my opinion, flat out biased towards guns. They are pro-crime. I believe they are pro-criminals. They are anti-defense, obviously anti-gun. And let's look at it. Let's look at this for a second. Why are they pro-criminals and pro-crime? Because it generates revenue in the state of New Jersey. They impose fines on these criminals. They get thousands and thousands of dollars from the federal government when they supply these crime stats at the end of the year by asking the federal government, we need more money to fight this crime.
Right.
What do they do with that money at the end?
One statistic I just saw, I'm not exactly sure the total numbers, but it was the idea was that the police officers in New Jersey are paid more. The average police officer in New Jersey is paid more, like almost double what the average person. Paid more in general, and also paid double what the average worker is paid. And so you have like this situation where you have like two classes of people who are able to carry guns, they're well compensated for it, and those are the people that are supposed to be the ones protecting. And then we're going to disarm the populace, bilk them for thousands of dollars in taxes, and not allow them to defend themselves. And on top of that, when they decide that they do need to defend themselves, they're imposing these draconian laws on them, trying to put people away for 5-10 years just because they had a registered handgun in their glove compartment. It's quite ridiculous.
Adam, it's ridiculous. And I go back to my case. They make me feel like I'm a criminal. When I went up in front of that judge and I had to hit the witness stand and I was being cross-examined by the prosecutor, I felt like I did something wrong. I felt like I was a criminal fighting for my life, not to go to jail, just because I wanted to exercise my Second Amendment right and have the ability to have a tool to defend myself if, God forbid, I ever needed it in the time of need. But they didn't make me feel like, they made me feel like I was a criminal. Like, how dare you want a gun to defend your life? Don't you know that guns are bad? That's how I felt. Until today, that's how I still feel.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is that you have a group of people like it. I'm not anti-law enforcement or pro-law enforcement really on this program, but it's like the liberal people who are generally anti-law enforcement. A lot of them are anti-law enforcement. They're the only ones that they want to have with weapons, And as far as I'm concerned, individual upstanding citizens have just as much right as the police officers today to carry and defend themselves. And also I've talked to state police officers that I know, and like the number of state police officers that are patrolling hundreds of miles worth of stretches on 295 and the Turnpike and 55, 42, all these places down in South Jersey, they may only have 2 or 3 people or officers patrolling at one time. It's not like there's this huge number of police force that's checking around every corner, making sure that we're all completely safe. I mean, it's pretty scary out there. I mean, I live close to Camden, New Jersey. You said you live close to Newark. There's Jersey City. There's a lot of very high crime. There's Trenton, very high crime cities in the state of New Jersey, and very. It's a relatively dangerous place to be compared to the rest of the country.
Are you familiar? Are you familiar with Short Hills Mall in Millburn, New Jersey?
Yeah, isn't that a more upscale area?
It's very upscale. The average property taxes in the town of Millburn are at $20,000. They can reach up to $35,000. The average home in Millburn is $1.5 million. You drive around the town of Millburn, all you see are Audis, BMWs, Range Rovers on driveways. Short Hills Mall. What happened to Short Hills Mall 2 years ago with Dustin Friedel? You know, it didn't happen in Newark. It didn't happen in Jersey City or Trenton. It happened in Millburn, New Jersey. So what happens in Newark, and trust me, there's the overwhelming majority of my personal friends are in law enforcement, and that's just because of my history, where I came from, where I worked. The majority of my personal friends till today are either retired police officers or currently still on the job. I am definitely not anti-police. I'm anti-police when they do something stupid and they do something wrong, but I think that's, even they are. They might not publicly mention it, they might not publicly say it, but the same thing with a firefighter if he screws up, or an EMT if he screws up, or any professional. If they screw up, you screw up, and you face the consequences. There are a lot of good police officers out there, a lot of them that are pro-Second Amendment. Unfortunately, in the state of New Jersey, because the way it is so political with the FOP and PBA, a lot of them do not publicly come out and endorse concealed carry. Although they might agree with it, but they do not publicly come out and endorse it because they cannot, because they do not want to feel the wrath of the PBA or the FOP. And that I know for a fact. Now, whatever crime that you hear or read about in Newark can happen anywhere. It can happen in Sussex County, in my town. Recently, we've had a rash of home invasions. Drugs, meth, heroin are the 2 #1 drugs in the state of New Jersey. Heroin, you can get high for $5 a bag. It's the purest drug in the nation, heroin. There's no other city or state that sells pure heroin than the state of New Jersey. And for $5, unless you're down in Wildwood, it's probably $25 because they try to hit you with that tourism tax because they know, But
we got the cheapest gas and the cheapest heroin. Look at that.
Right. So, and it's everywhere, and it's not just the minorities. It's the white kid in suburbia that needs his high, and he's walking down the wrong path, and it's leading to violence, where they're committing armed robberies. They just had a couple of months ago during the Christmas season, 3 white kids from Liberty Township, which is another it's a township in Hunterdon County that's affluent, and they were coming up to Sussex County, an hour away, to commit armed robberies. And when they printed a profile of these kids in the newspaper, you're like, you gotta be kidding me. These kids were 18, 19 years old, clean, well-dressed, and you're like, what went wrong with these kids? Well, they were getting high and they were getting desperate. So they were coming from Liberty Township to Sussex County, an hour away, to commit armed robberies. So what happens in Newark, Jersey City, Camden, Trenton can happen anywhere.
Yeah. And so, as we kind of wrap up a little bit, I wanted to ask you kind of like, so your case is going forward. It's at the appellate level right now. Is that where we're at?
Correct. We already went through the New Jersey Superior Court level, which is the county level. That was denied. Now we go to the appellate division. We're expecting to be denied in the appellate division. I'm hoping that it gets denied in the appellate division. Two things can happen. The appellate division can say, hey, listen, Albert Almeida has the Second Amendment Foundation behind them. These guys have a lot of money. They're persistent. They're aggressive. Let's shut Albert down. Let's shut him up. And let's close his case and grant him his permit. So like that, we can screw the rest of the good citizens in the state of New Jersey. Or they can be stubborn and do what they always do and say, no, we're not going to give you the permit. If they do that, which we're hoping that that's what they do, then we're going to, as of now, we're planning on bypassing the New Jersey Supreme Court. And that's because of what happened with the Richard Pantano case right after the Drake was denied cert. Because we know that they're biased, they're anti-gun, and that we really don't have a shot with the New Jersey Supreme Court. So the intention is to bypass them and then send it up to the federal levels. Obviously, from the federal levels, we'll go to the 3rd District and then up to SCOTUS, petition SCOTUS, and hope that it gets certified with SCOTUS. It may not. There's several other cases out there. There's the Palmer versus D.C. There's the Peruta versus San Diego, Richardson. There's a few cases out there. They're already in the pipeline. But hey, you never know. It could be the Almeida versus New Jersey that brings down New Jersey. It could be the Palmer versus D.C. that brings down New Jersey. We just don't know, and that's what we're hoping for, and that's what we're shooting for.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to see what kind of happens with this, because I know I threatened to apply for a concealed carry permit, but a friend told me, like if you get denied, then say you move to another state, or you try to get a permit.
Not true.
Well, because I am afraid that a denial on my record is a potential red flag for something in the future. But even at this time, I really appreciate the idea that we need to be pushing the envelope. We shouldn't be sitting back and just saying, well, this is just how things are going to be from now on. Even if we get denied, to still go forward and to fight for what we believe in, because those type of things have ramifications down the road.
Sure, and I understand the fear, but hey, use me as a test subject. I've purchased 2 handguns and 4 rifles ever since I was denied. I clearly marked down, yes, I was denied due to lack of justifiable need. The denial doesn't mean because you were denied because you're a criminal, or now because you are a new criminal. The state of New Jersey denied you due to the lack of justifiable need and not meeting their administrative code. I had no problem purchasing 2 handguns. I had no problem purchasing 4 rifles since my denial. I've renewed my Florida concealed carry license that I have. No problem. I put down in the application, I'm honest, I don't lie, I check off, yes, denied. In the space that they give you, you put lack of meeting New Jersey's justifiable need code. I've had no issues with that.
That makes me feel a little bit better. So if people want to kind of follow what's going on with the case, so they want to get in touch with you or just kind of see stuff that you're involved with, what's the best way for people to contact you or to see what's going on?
I have a Facebook page that I publish updates of what's going on, and it's Albert Almeida, ALMEIDA, battling New Jersey CCW 2A rights and liberties. So if you Google Albert Almeida, I'm sure it'll come up, or if you go onto a Facebook search and you put in Albert Almeida battling for New Jersey CCW 2A rights, that page will come up. They could also follow the Second Amendment Foundation with Alan Gottlieb. It is now published on their website. They are the one that are funding the case. And we also have the New Jersey Second Amendment Rights Fighters Facebook group. That's a Facebook group. It's NJ2AR that they could also get updates on there as well.
Yeah, and we can always put links. We'll put links to all this in the show notes and on the website and things like
Absolutely.
that. Albert, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. Good luck with your fight and your battle. I really appreciate the fact that you are taking time out of your life to put energy into something that we both believe in. So,
thank you for having me. And you know, if we all rise up and demand this, I believe we can win. Maybe not today, but eventually we will win for us and for our children.
I appreciate that. Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.